Okay, this is Travis Wayne Goodsell. I've got a few more minutes to blow, so I'll do as short a video as I'm possibly capable of doing. When Brigham Young took those who chose to follow him out into the desert of what's now the Utah Valley, Brigham Young, as I've been trying to inform you, made a complete 360 on the church's direction. The doctrine, the theology, the ritual, everything was changed from the church that Joseph Smith had established. And much to many Mormons' surprise nowadays, Brigham Young did not have full support of the membership. And there were many opposition. There was much opposition to Brigham Young and his new changes. Not everybody followed and agreed with him. That's why Brigham Young chose to use execution as part of his threats for compliance. Yeah, I hope Mormons are not naive into thinking that everything went happy and well with the new settlement, and that only the government sending their army in, delaying the completion of the Salt Lake Temple, and all those other distractions don't distract you from the knowledge of what actually happened. Brigham Young had a wife who left him, divorced him, and Brigham Young had to contend with apostles who did not like having a new God to worship. And Brigham Young made sure that one troublemaker apostle would never obtain the presidency of the church, according to Brigham Young's new structure for succession. And if you don't know that, you're not doing your church history. It's not me making this up. And so with President Nelson coming into the presidency as the new president of the church, lots and lots of changes have begun. And I hope Mormons realize this, that everything is getting changed. And I see the warning signs. I know church history, not just of Mormon church history. I know Christian church history after Jesus and the apostles died. I know the cause of the apostasy. I've studied it. I know it. I did a book on it. I've blogged on it. I've done videos on it, tying it to today. And so I've also I studied ancient history as well, and recognized the disputes with new management in government and in church, because anciently it was a theocracy. And so it's a little disappointing to watch as Mormons are going to my now popular video for the day. It's now up to 900 views on Nelson getting the temple text wrong. And last I saw, 22 thumbs down and only 5 thumbs up. And those 5 were boom, 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 boom. So they must have been subscribers who are excited that I'm exposing what the church is doing, not letting them get away with it. because you know about the prophecy from Isaiah that the sins will be revealed on the rooftops. And so today we have satellites, and we have TV antennas, and now we have internet that is just, you use a modem. But yeah, I mean, people are able to take video of crimes that occur, of abuses, of corruption, and we're able to expose people's sins and crimes online, over the air, not just by the news. Citizens, you and me, we can cover this. We can spread the word, spread the communication, let everybody know what's going on. And so that's the disheartening part, is that Mormons, instead of being made aware of what the church leaders are doing, Mormons instead are pulling similar tactics that have been consistent with devout followers of abusive religions in the transition period. The Mormon feminists, as they call them, are praising Nelson for the changes he made to the temple. And as you know, I did the video that Nelson is wrong. He's still got it wrong. You know, Brigham Young got it wrong, and then 91, Benson got it wrong still. You know, everybody's getting it wrong. Joseph Smith got it right, but we're not following Joseph Smith, are we? Because Brigham Young took us on a completely different course, and Mormons don't realize that. And so I tried to do the video pointing out, hey, the Book of Mormon says that the fall of Adam was a result of Adam, not Eve. And so our church, the LDS Church, since Brigham Young, has promoted and enforced as official doctrine over the Book of Mormon, over the Doctrine and Covenants supporting the Book of Mormon, and over Joseph Smith, and even over the selections from the Book of Moses, because you got to keep reading past the part that's the same as the Bible. That's what I've been trying to tell people way back when, is that I was trying to help people understand, don't look for what's the same, because that's plagiarism. Look for the differences. That's what Joseph Smith was trying to help people recognize. Because remember, he says, Article of Faith number 8, we believe the Bible to be the Word of God as far as it is translated correctly. And he talked about, in section 91, the Apocrypha doesn't need to be retranslated in his Joseph Smith translation. And so, as you can tell, Joseph Smith did make changes throughout the Bible, but not the Apocrypha. But yet we don't have the Apocrypha, do we? So I did a video on that. Where's the Apocrypha? And Mormons aren't listening to those, because I guess I'm not titling my video properly for people to find out about this. And so I hope Mormons realize that it's not about tribalism. You don't need to defend the church at all costs. You don't need to give your life for the church. It's the gospel. Gospel is separate than the church. We don't need a church. If the church were, if the ward buildings were to be blown up, the temples blown up, that's okay. Because the book of Alma talks about Alma and can't think of the Amulek. Alma and Amulek. They go to the Zoramites. They see the poor Zoramites who were kicked out of their synagogue. And they're saying, hey, what's going on? We got kicked out of our synagogue. We built that synagogue and they kicked us out once we built it because we no longer are employed and therefore are poor. And Alma had to teach them, you don't need a synagogue or a building in order to have a connection with deity, with God. And then goes into talking about faith and how you need to replicate the word. And that's also what I've been trying to educate Mormons on. It's not about read, ponder, pray, you get revelation, and now you have all knowledge. That's memorization knowledge. And that's not intelligence. Intelligence is getting an idea, revelation, vision, whatever, and you reproduce it. Physically reproduce it. Creation. And it's not creation out of nothing. Creatio ex nihilo, as Catholics claim is the correct interpretation of Genesis 1:1. And so, yeah, I'm trying to help you guys so that you can fact check the church leaders. But Mormons believe, or at least the ones remaining believe, that the church leaders are above the law of God. Just like you believe that the Utah government are above the laws of the land. And even those leaders tell us that. The people voted me, so therefore they want me to do my will as the leader. They've said that. Go to the Deseret News, you can find it. They get put in, or they have some debate over whether they can do something, and they say, hey, the people voted for me, they want me to do what I want. That's what it means. They don't get it. They're not above the law. The law is the United States Constitution. That is the supreme law of the land. And Joseph Smith warned, hey, right at the latter days, Constitution will hang by a thread. And so I am collecting members into my organization so that we can save the United States when that day comes. The Brigham Young took over, changed the direction of the church. And so now we're left helpless because the Utah government is helping the enemy to destroy America. Do you know how many Mormons were on the Kavanaugh hearing? Hatch, Lee, Stewart, Flake. And Flake flaked, but then went along with the others. Four Mormons putting Kavanaugh in. And we all know why Kavanaugh was put in, because he is the only person who has said that a president is above the law while president. That's exactly why Trump put him in. That's why the Mormons aided and abetted Trump in making Trump king of the United States. Mormons know the Book of Mormon warns, do not put a king on the throne of the United States, even. Mormon chapter 8. Moroni is saying, I know you. I know your generation. The Book of Mormon is for our generation, not Joseph Smith's generation. The warnings were for this day, when the Constitution would hang by a thread. So, and Mormons are now aiding and abetting the enemy. That's conspiratorial treason, people. Look up the Constitution. Read about treason. Giving aid and comfort to the enemy. The enemy is established a king over our land. Every Mormon who supports King Trump are giving aid and comfort. So I need to wrap it up. It's 15 minutes anyway. So I hope you understand the serious, Mormons. This is not God's direction. God doesn't want this. Don't think that it's the leader of the church who's making these changes, that therefore it automatically concludes that it's Jesus who's making these changes. And so, feminists of the Mormon Church, you shouldn't have to demand change from the old white males. It's not God's church if you have to demand equality, humanity, justice. Did I say equality? I think I did. And same with blacks. Brigham Young took it away. Just because the church gave in and gave it back in 78, it doesn't make it God's will. Because was it God's will that he took it away? No. That wasn't what Joseph Smith did. You know this. Because you put up poster boys of Joseph Smith's as evidence that the church, did believe this. But then you give in to the hype that, oh, well, it was for blacks' protection. No. We had separated from the United States. Brigham Young could have continued it. But he was a racist. A president of the church was a racist. A man who is supposed to be the closest to godliness was a racist. And so it is disturbing that Mormons would excuse a leader for gross crimes, gross abuses. And I don't know how to communicate to you otherwise, because all I have to do is keep repeating over and over again until somebody clicks in their mind and says, you know what, he's right. We are wrong. You don't need the church to commune with God. But yeah, you do need rituals. But if it's not God's church, the actual church itself needs to be restored. See, for the Zoramites, they don't need a church to commune with God, but they still need somebody who can do the rituals. Someone who has legitimate authority, not professed authority. So as you're going to church tomorrow, and you're no longer studying the scriptures, because Sunday school's gone, think about this. Think about the damage that is being done to the church and the cover-up. with these little changes that are taking place to pacify people, when the serious crimes, neglecting the poor as the big one, still continue. Okay, well, I've time for bed now, so